Hello and welcome to 52 Pickup, a podcast about the greatest comic you've never heard of. I am professional comic book expert Alex Jaffe, and joining me this week, I don't say it often enough, but it's true, professional comic book expert Gita Jackson.
That's me. I am a professional comic book expert. You want to know what I've been doing? I'm taking a little time off work, and I know I have to read a different comic for a bonus episode we're recording pretty soon.
Oh, yeah.
But I sat down and I picked out an enormous actual literary book to read that I bought and haven't read yet. But what I have been doing instead is reading Jonathan Hickman's entire run of Fantastic Four. I don't know what has come over me, but I'm not a Marvel reader, but I just was like, what's his whole deal? And then I read the Ultimates and I was like, that's interesting. And I was like, why don't I just go back to the beginning of him writing this character? And I did. I've read so many comic books this week.
I'm so proud of you. That's my favorite sentence in the world. I read so many comic books.
I know. I knew you would really appreciate the thing that I'm going through. I started reading Fantastic Four, and then someone suggested I also read his run on S.H.I.E.L.D., which was okay. Mm-hmm. It's not just S.H.I.E.L.D. It was Nick Fury, Agent of Nothing, during the Dark Reign thing, where all the bad guys were good and all the good guys were being treated like villains. Oh no. That kind of shit that happens in comics. And then I read that, and then I read there's a S.H.I.E.L.D. book he wrote where it goes back to Galileo and stuff, and I read that, and then I just was like, might as well just keep going.
Yeah.
I'm cruising through. I am almost at the end of his Fantastic Four run, which then I know means Avengers and New Avengers. And you see how they just suck you in. This is how comic books work. Yeah. You read one story and it's like, oh, but then this continues in this other book? Crazy. And you just keep going.
I know Hickman's whole 2010s Marvel saga is just one of those rapid breakneck tour of the entire universe runs that a big 52 head could probably appreciate.
It's also interesting because I was reading the Ultimates because I was thinking about the new Ultimates. This is very confusing to my husband, who does not know the history of comics. So if you don't know going back to, the 2000s, what comics were like, there was, before the Marvel movies, the Ultimate Universe. And a lot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe was based on the Ultimate Universe. Yeah. There is now a revival of the Ultimate Universe, but it's a different concept entirely. And it's also run by Hickman. I picked it up because I like Hickman's work. I like his indie work. I like the X-Men stuff.
Love East
I thought
of
the
West.
Krakoa era is good. Yeah. East of West is so fucking good. By the way, I'm angry about how good it is when I read it.
It's so stupid how good that comic is.
It's just, again, perfect match of writer talent and artistic talent. And also gets you, I'm so skeptical of stories that devote a lot of time to world building, but he manages to balance really interesting world building with very solid character writing that gets you to think about things.
There's a full-on character in that comic who's just Colonel Sanders, and he's the greatest villain in the history of comics.
It's really great. It's really great. It manages to both deliver hell yeah, as the Youngs say, hype moments and aura with actual things to think about and content. I got to a point in the the Fantastic Four run that I was sort of what I didn't like about his Nick Fury thing was that it was fun and clever, but it kind of, in the Alan Moore way where he says The Killing Joke is just a very good comic about Batman. Yeah. It felt like just a very good comic about Nick Fury. But there got to a point in Fantastic Four when I was like, oh, he's decided to view everything about this family through the lens of family specifically and what it is like to have a family and what it's like to pass on skills through a generation. And it's giving me actual content to chew on with my brain about what it means to be a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, and what it means to honor the people that came before you and also honor the people that come after. And I was like, that's a very rare skill for a comic book writer, I have to say. Hype moments and aura, you can eat very good as a comic book writer on just delivering that.
Speaking of comics about the concept of family. That's what this issue of 52 is all about.
I planned that. But you can't prove I didn't.
You're so good at podcasting, Gita.
I knew to bring this up. But this, on the cover of this issue, is a callback. When I saw this cover, it was truly, before I had the words for it, a hype moment and aura farming. Like, it really was. It's Buddy, the Animal Man himself, in the leather jacket that he wears in the Animal Man comic that Grant Morrison wrote way back in the 80s, with a picture of his family. We have not picked up on that plot line in quite a few weeks, I think. And you would be forgiven for thinking that this is what the issue is about.
If I'm not mistaken, he's doing the same Jesus Christ T-pose as in the Brian Bolland cover that he did for Animal Man number 5.
He's being crucified, you know?
The Coyote Gospel.
It is absolutely an attempt to get sickos like me to get excited for this issue. The cover, I think, is more thematically rich than what happens to Animal Man in the comic, but the cover is fucking great.
Yeah, the cover is just J.G. Jones doing a full-on Brian Bolland tribute. I love it.
Yeah.
You can tell down to the faces in the photograph.
Yeah, like, I am always happy with a J.G. Jones cover, and I do like when artists pay artistic tribute to people that have influenced them, as they do in this way. So I'm not mad about this. It's a misdirect, I'll say.
Yeah. Well, J.G. Jones wrote a lot about how he made all these covers in advance, and how we've spoken about how plot lines and stories have gotten reshuffled around as they go, just to make the most narrative sense of what we can fit in what week at a time. So a lot of these covers were created under the premise that some story would get an entire issue in one specific week, but it's not always how that shakes out. And sometimes creating covers like these takes time that a weekly series does not afford you. So he had to make a lot of guesses.
Yeah, at least he's in the issue is what I'll say.
They gave him 3 pages. They could have easily not been there, but then the question would have been, well, then what do we do with this J.G. Jones cover we just got? So it's exactly, like those 3 pages are there to justify the cover.
Yeah, as a misdirect, though, it is in combination with another great plot twist in this issue.
Yes. Speaking of which, if we can talk talent for a moment. Our artists this week are old industry pros Dan Jurgens and Norm Rapmund. Jurgens, notably one of the pencilers on The Death of Superman. Probably not important, but, he's just here for this issue.
I love Jurgens' art.
The guy who drew Superman's death is here for this issue. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about that at all. No, Jurgens' art is great, always. I love his art in this issue, and it is... when they can get these really like powerhouse artists for really significant issues, it just makes me happy to see that matchup. And this is a very good matchup of artistic talent and what they're describing.
One thing I really love about Dan Jurgens is that, like so many of us, he is so clearly obsessed with one particular Blorbo. And in his case, it's Cyborg Superman. Every single chance he gets, he brings Cyborg Superman back to ruin somebody's day and to torture him a little bit more. And I just really respect that about him. Like, if he's doing Green Lantern, Cyborg Superman will show up. If he's just any excuse he can to shove that guy in there. And I love that for him. And I can't pretend I wouldn't do the same thing about my idiots.
I know I would do the same thing.
That's
the thing. I just know that if I had a chance to write my Blorbo into any situation, I would. I do be knowing that. There's a couple of guys that I want to just put in situations, and I always want to figure out what they do in that situation. Buddy Baker is one of them. Obviously, Kendall Roy is one of them.
Yeah.
I just want to know what he'd do in a situation. I want to know what would happen if Lex Luthor and Kendall met each other.
There are only 2 reasons to write for Marvel or DC Comics. One is to build an audience so you can take it with you back into indie comics. And the other is to put your Blorbos into situations.
Exactly.
Why else do that?
Why you want to put the question into a situation. You just want to see what he would do in there. I want to rotate him in my head really fucking fast.
They just announced this new Red Hood series that I am nuts about, where he's going to New Orleans with the Huntress, and they're going to get into this just extremely toxic, fucked up romance. And I'm like, oh,
man.
give me that.
Yes. They're putting them in situations.
I have heard people like from the Jason Todd fandom already complaining about the fact that this is a bad match. And I'm like, that's the point. The point is that they will make each other worse.
Yeah.
They are feeding you and you don't even know it yet.
Just eat it. Just eat the yummy food. You're eating.
Well, we got this tiny animal man plot, and the rest of it is about the Black Adam family. That's the bulk of this issue. The last time we saw our good buddy Amon Tomaz, also known as Osiris, he was sad because he murdered a man.
Yeah.
And
he lost all his friends because he murdered a man too, so that's really bumming him out.
And Kondak has been suffering from like these plagues because ostensibly he thinks he murdered a man, where there's just like famine and disease.
Yeah, what are those famine, death, and pestilence, maybe? Yeah. Or is the other? I don't know.
There's a bunch of war breaking out for some reason.
Interesting.
Probably
Did he
unrelated.
come on a pale horse, perhaps?
And he's like, something is wrong with my powers. Maybe we'll go to the Rock of Eternity. That's something that our good old crocodile friend Sobek suggested. So they're going to check
It's not like a
together.
Bad suggestion to go to the Rock of Eternity.
It's a good idea.
It's like actually a good idea. When they go to the Rock of Eternity, and it's just them talking through how you even get inside and like et cetera, but when they
Sobek is doing Scooby-Doo jokes because Quacky Hungy.
Yeah. And when they get inside, of course, it's not the Wizard of Eternity. It is still
Captain Marvel.
Captain
as he was
Marvel.
known at the time.
Captain Marvel is still sitting there, but this time joined by Captain Marvel Jr. and also Mary Marvel.
That's right. The three of them kind of flanked in judgment because, hey, what are you doing here, dude? You murdered a man. Captain Marvel Jr.'s first instinct is to stand up for Osiris, that clearly this was like some doctored footage. Somebody deep faked this. But to his credit, Osiris immediately owns up to the fact that, yeah, that was me. I killed that guy. It's
also so fucked up. Just want to note as a sidebar, the Teen Titans are being investigated for their ties to terrorism. The Teen Titans had to go in front of the Senate saying we're not terrorists. Jesus Christ.
We're going to talk about this next week, but it is incredible how much Peter David's Young Justice changes mid-run right after September 11th. Like the whole tone.
Yeah, no, it's true. You texted me about this and I was thinking about it. And like the comic does get better after one specific event. They like shake all the sillies out.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it's goofy, but there's stakes after that. And you can like tell why people such as myself really latched onto this story.
We'll get
after that. We'll get there. We're not going to burn pod. But, you know, if you want to hear any of the bonus episodes that we do for 52 Pickup, you should subscribe to Aftermath, by the way.
It's a teaser.
We do a lot of good, fun interviews, and we also talk about comics and movies that we don't get a chance to talk about in the main show. So aftermath.site/products, check it out. Get access to bonus episodes. Thank you.
Yeah. Sometimes we review music videos. Sometimes we talk about one specific VTuber for some reason. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It's normal. It's normal.
Yeah. The one thing you can say about our show is that it's extremely normal. So Amon's having this big showdown with the Marvel family, and he's like, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take my powers away because I can't be trusted with them, and they're hurting my country. And, I can't blame him for it. The fact that he wasn't able to control his own strength to the point that he literally flew through a guy. I remember when I was in my 20s, after getting in a serious accident, I was like, I'm never driving again because I cannot be trusted on the road.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good instinct.
Don't worry. Nobody was hurt, but they could have been. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
I completely agree with that. Just in general, teenagers, as they grow, because they grow so rapidly, go through this all the time. You are roughhousing and you shove or push or kick with the same amount of strength that you feel like you did the day before, and you hurt somebody. That is normal, and it's a good instinct to take a step back and then think, I have to learn how to better control my actions.
I'm glad you brought that up because this next scene is also very much emblematic of that growing up process that Osiris is going through now, where suddenly the surrogate mommy and daddy show up. Black Adam and Isis have followed him into the cave. And they're like, what are you talking about trying to get rid of your powers? Come home with us so we can like actually address all this horrible weirdness that's going on in Kahndaq. And Osiris's reaction is, wait a minute, it's not my fault this is happening. It's your fault it's happening.
Oh, not a bad guess also, he is dressed in all black.
He is Black Adam.
He is Black Adam, he did tear a man in half.
Yeah.
Like the first or second issue of this comic.
Right.
So fair enough. The kid's got a good head on his shoulders. But this frustration he has, he begins to argue with Black Adam, and that argument begins to get physical. First, he punches Black Adam. And then the rest of them are trying to. Second issue in a row
where we've had an incredible punch sequence over here.
It's a full page punch. It's really cool looking.
I love this full page splash where the 7 enemies of man are just like goading Osiris on in the background. The idol representations of the 7 deadly sins, just doing that sicko's yes JPEG as they watch Osiris lay his brother-in-law out.
Yeah, God, it's pretty funny. The panel of all of them holding back Black Adam was really, really hilarious to me also. It takes 3 of them and they're still not able to do it.
Yeah.
But essentially it turns into like a brawl of all the Atoms together, trying to stop Osiris and Black Adam from just beating the shit out of each other. And what happens, unfortunately, is Adrienne comes up behind Osiris while Billy is trying to restrain him from the front. And he sort of shoves them away and ends up hitting Isis, Adrienne as well, which is not cool. That's his sister and also Black Adam's wife. So that takes the temperature down for everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody takes a step because nobody wanted things to go that far. And it seems like they're reaching a resolution where Osiris is like, I'm not going to be mad and I know that you blah, 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 blah. But essentially it seems like they've reached like an end to the conflict, but it does seem like Osiris is still really tense about this whole scenario. He does seem like he still feels like there's something objectively wrong with him.
I will say that with this whole fight scene and Isis flopping around everywhere, it is a miracle that her costume somehow stays on.
I mean, yes, there's got to be some in crazy double-sided tape scenario because it's just like 2 strips of fabric over her breasts with no bra. And there's just like, and like a tiny, really tiny skirt. I don't understand how it stays on.
Work?
It doesn't make any sense. It's glued to her body is what it looks like.
The only explanation is that she is a magic superhero and she is using the magic to keep it on. And that's why she was vulnerable to an accidental hit to the face. But yeah, Isis takes that opportunity to calm Osiris down and take him home so they can work this out together. And Sobek makes another Scooby-Doo joke. And everybody laughs at the end of the scene. Oh, Sobek.
Oh, Sobek. That particular panel, I know for a while in H-Bomber Guy's stream was like an emote. Oh, Sobek.
I love this little dude. Never done anything wrong in his life.
He's never done anything wrong in his life. And as far as we know so far, he won't do anything wrong in the future either. But let's go into the far space, for a little bit. The family's resolving their problems. They had a little fight. They fought it out, and now they're doing okay. But in space, who's not okay? It's Buddy Baker. He's really not okay.
Yeah. Last we saw, he was presumed dead by the other space heroes left behind at a Viking funeral in space and picked up by the yellow aliens who gave him powers. And they apparently took him on their spaceship to bring him back to life for whatever reason. They're just like whatever purposes they have for him aren't finished yet. And then they just stick him back in the vacuum of space where they found him.
He's like, I can't breathe out here. There's like fucking blood coming out of his ears. And they're just like, they point beyond the panel and he looks out at us again as he did earlier in the series. And he says, there's nothing alive I can use. So he can't use our abilities as humans reading this. So he has to use essentially he has to dig deep and expand out. So his powers work by he has to be in proximity to an animal to steal the animal powers.
Mhm.
But in the vacuum of space, there are no animals, except this is a fucking comic book. So there are animals out here.
Specifically sun eaters, one of the big spacey monsters that originated in the Silver Age. They're exactly what they say. They're giant bugs that eat suns. And Grant Morrison loves these guys and will use them again in a couple of years from now as a major plot point in their All-Star Superman run.
Yep, I do think sun eaters are a cool idea.
Yeah.
Generally, just because space is so big, like a space insect must be massive. It's like a very comic booky thought. It amuses me. It feels like it just fits into a child's conception of how the universe should work, which is what I find so charming about Morrison's work when it really sings.
One of the earliest Alan Moore DC comics was just this short in an Omega Men issue about just these giant creatures who take millions of years to blink and billions of years to have a conversation at a pace that like everyone around, like every other race in the universe perceives them as these just giant statues.
That's so cool, right? Like the Sun Eater and bringing the Sun Eater back and back and back does feel like paying homage to the expansiveness of the universe, that there's things out there that we don't truly control. And also what I really like about the sequence where he reaches out and finds the Sun Eaters is like he gets alien powers that are like allow him to return home. And he like looks at the photograph as the vacuum of space is crushing him to death. And that's his motivation to get this far, to find the thing that can bring him home. He's looking at his wife and children. That's very nice.
That's been the consistent theme with Buddy throughout this story in the moments that he's been allowed to have it. That with all this absolutely unfathomable space stuff going on around him, it's just the thought of his wife and child that keeps him moving no matter what. Next we have... I don't understand. So we cut away from Buddy.
Yeah, so something really nice just happened. And are you ready to see some of the worst shit you've ever seen in your life?
Yeah. Next, the worst thing I have ever seen happens. And it's one of these ladies that Lady Styx abducted from that one good Grant Morrison space issue is just extremely 12-ass months pregnant.
Yeah.
And just violently gives birth to an adult Lady Styx.
Just come on, right? Just come the fuck on. Come on.
What are you showing me here?
Yeah, that's exactly what I looked like what I felt when I saw this. Like,
holy
Jesus
God. Yeah,
I don't want to see
I'm
that.
full on
I'm full on that.
The Batman's the Penguin over this scene.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is like exactly if you play Dragon Age, like the newer ones, and then you go backwards in the lore, you find shit like this. Like, yes, this is full on like 90s video game grimdark bullshit. Like, fuck off. Nobody wants to see this. It could have been, we've all seen Alien. It could have been birthed from anybody. Why does it have to be the one nice lady? Fuck you.
But with that trauma done with, we go back to a quiet night in Kahndaq where Osiris is standing over the balcony from Aladdin, I guess, waiting for Aladdin to show up on a magic carpet, as we've discussed in the wedding issue. And he tells Sobek that the premise, that the pretense that he gave Isis for returning with her to help save Kahndaq was just bullshit, so she'd get off his case because he felt bad about hurting her. And what he really still wants to do is just either leave Kahndaq or give up his powers or both. And he talks through that with his close friend and confidant Sobek, the only person who he trusts in the world. And Sobek says, if you want to get rid of your powers, you could. You can just say Black Adam's name and go back to being a regular person, and you never have to say it again if that's what you want. But understand that if you do, like the last time you were human, the religion of crime broke your legs and you wouldn't be able to walk. And Osiris says, you know what? If that has to be my penance, then I'm okay with that. If it means that I won't hurt anyone again, if it means that I can somehow make up for what I did, then yes, I'll give up my powers and go back to being what I was. So he says the name and he becomes human again. And that's the end of the issue. Nothing else happens.
Just kidding. So he becomes human again, and he's in the middle of talking about how he accepts this. This is his penance for having committed murder, is losing the ability to walk. And he totally is, he's okay with this outcome. And then behind him, Sobek clutching him in his arms, Sobek's eyes start to glow red. And the next page is a full page splash of Sobek just chewing him in half, just eating the fuck out of this man. It's gnarly.
So grisly, and it comes out of nowhere.
Oh my God. The internet went absolutely bonkers when this issue came out. It was like, I remember the Scans Daily post about this issue was just people screaming.
More so than like a crowd of people falling from the sky when Luthor turned everyone's powers off.
No. Sobek's betrayal was unfathomable to people, which is really funny.
This is the biggest moment.
Oh my God. It's funny when you look at the breakdowns for Keith Giffen for this issue in the 52 edition. Oh my God, I wanted to talk to you this so bad. So apparently Keith Giffen didn't like Sobek.
Yeah.
And there's this little comic that Keith Giffen drew to express his displeasure with Sobek. That's just Osiris going, "Catch me, Sobek, catch me." And then Sobek looks at him and there's like a lightning bolt and or an exclamation point coming out of his head. And then the next panel is Sobek on the line to his sponsor.
It happened again, man.
He looks like a big chicken to me. I don't know.
I don't know what to do. Take it one day at a time, Sobek.
I'll be on the line with you until the urge goes away.
I like to imagine Sobek's sponsor is Taki Tani.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I'm sure Taki Tani took a lot of discipline to not eat those fucking kids.
Oh, yeah.
What I really love about this is just Sobek. The last 3 panels of the book just have this horrible red overlay on everything, and it's just like blood everywhere. It's just, there's all these big crunch sound effects. It's nasty. It's nasty. They want you to know he's dead. They want you to know he's dead.
We have talked a lot about how the artists of 52 have done a lot to make Sobek look like the world's most adorable crocodile. And it's in this moment, finally, where that all pays off. It's like, oh, wait, this is a crocodile man. He will eat you like he ate Jason Todd's parents.
Forgot about that. Why did I forget? All he can do is eat parents and lie. That's it.
That's the problem with crocodile men of this generation.
All I know is eat parents and lie. You know, it again, now you get to see what you figure out what they're really doing with the Kondak arc. The many issues ago, released from a boom tube, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse arrived and were transported to Kondak. We only saw 3 of them, and they said one of the horsemen was already there. All this entire time, Sobek has always talked about how hungry he is and how much he yearns for food.
Mr. Policeman.
We gave you all the clues.
And just to drive that point home, in the final Next in 52 preview, we see the other 3 horsemen of the apocalypse all below Sobek with his mouth caked in Osiris's blood.
Yep.
God.
I just hope he still wears the little pants.
We'll see. We'll see. That's the issue. All that's left is an Origin of Plastic Man backup. The artist on this is noted Comicsgate figurehead Ethan Van Sciver.
I love, let me just read directly from your notes because I love what you've written here. Art by Comicsgate figurehead Ethan Van Sciver, appropriate as what passed for Plastic Man comedy in the 90s was basically just sexual harassment.
It's true.
Sometimes you really get me, Alex. Sometimes you really get me. No, it is, the art is lovely, which is always annoying to say about a fuck-ass guy. But it is, there's just not much to say about Plastic Man given the origin here. Plastic Man he's a guy. He was a criminal, and then he got turned into a stretchy dude, and now he solves the crimes instead of causing them.
I love how Tom Kenny plays him in Batman the Brave and the Bold.
Yes, true. That is really great.
He's great there. The Golden Age 1940s comics by Jack Cole are maybe some of the strongest comics that hold up from the era today. Jack Cole, also a noted Playboy artist, but he was doing stuff with the comic form as a writer-artist of Plastic Man, just doing visual gags that nobody else was doing at the time that really moved it forward. And in the 90s, and when they brought him over to DC, they kind of floundered to find a place for him. In the 90s, Grant Morrison drafted him onto the JLA because they were like, we need a comedy relief character. And the idea of comedy relief at the time was, what if we just had a big old pervert on the team? Something that anime is still working through now.
Yeah, you've seen that Pro ZD sketch that's like him being like, this is my favorite anime character, and it's him just doing an impression of a guy who says, like, oh, I'm pissing and pooping my pants. I'm pissing and pooping my pants right now. And it's like, he just kind of, after this stuff, he becomes good. Oh, no, I'm pissing and shit in my pants. Oh, God, I'm so horny. And it's like, like a lot of anime is like that. It's true. It sucks.
Plastic Man is a great character who has had some unfortunate runs, is just what I have to say about him. Good 2-page origin from me, Mark Waid here, as per usual. What was your favorite scene this issue?
Chomp.
It's so good.
Either the chomp or knowing the twist. It's when Isis says, oh, Sobek. That's like, when you know the twist, that scene becomes really funny.
Just the page turn on the violence of that scene.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Still rips your heart out.
Oh my God. I look forward to this turn every time I read this comic because it is so brutal. They drop almost the only hint they drop that maybe something's going on with Sobek is the 4 Horsemen stuff. And if you're not paying super good attention to that, you'll miss it entirely. But it's so clear when you read it that they planned this from the start, especially with how obsequious Sobek is when he's first introduced. He is just like a sniveling little baby. He's like, oh, don't hurt me, please. I'm the little birthday boy. Please don't hurt me.
I'm just a sad little crocodile man from Dr. Savannah's basement.
Oh, please don't hurt me. I'm a good boy. I'm going to be good. Yeah. It is so, it makes, retroactively, it just makes all of the interactions with Sobek hilarious.
Yeah.
I just love it.
It's so good on the reread. It's so good on the reread.
It's just, you love when a twist makes rereading something more pleasurable, and that's definitely what happens here.
I'm going to shout out the audiobook adaptation of 52. The actor they got to play Sobek is so good at like playing this sniveling little crocodile on just like the sudden turn here. Maybe the best performance in the whole adaptation.
That's wonderful. Yeah. I'll have to listen to that at some point.
It's so good. You have anything you want to put on the blackboard?
I mean, it's the space stuff, right?
Yeah.
I do just want to know, because it's like, if you're not reading along with us, it's hard to describe how weird the 2 pages of Lady Stick stuff are. But there's a bunch of guys hooked up to tubes.
Yeah.
Just like a bunch of guys with various Technicolor skin colors hooked up to tubes. And then she's like mega pregnant. And then like... She's like so pregnant with a fully grown humanoid being, right? Like, I just have so many questions about this. And it's like, I know any of the answers will just make it worse, but it's like, what's the whole plan here? Do they just kidnap women just in case? And they're just gestating? Like, what's the life cycle of a Lady Styx? I'm just confused.
The point of the entire Space Hero storyline from the beginning, their mission statement from the moment they introduced it was, we need to make DC space bigger. You've been reading a lot of Hickman Marvel. The thing Marvel does a lot better than DC that I have to cop up to is making space seem really big.
Oh, yeah. And I just got to a point in the Fantastic Four space thing where it's a battle between 3 long-running rival outer space species. And it feels like space is just absolutely enormous and beyond comprehension in a coherent way. This does not do that. This is just Alien.
Right.
This is Alien, but the alien is a sexy lady. Like, or I guess to some people's definition, a sexy lady.
Telling on yourself a little bit there.
Oh, she's a monster lady, but it's like the alien from Alien is more literally just genitals, and this one has a face,
I get you, yeah. Usually DC space is Green Lantern or New God or nothing. This at least makes some attempt to try to expand that, and we see that with the Sun Eaters, who haven't played a major role in a long time, that Morrison is pulling from obscure Silver Age comics here and will go to again. And it's something that is really lacking even to this day in DC's space titles. And I don't know who's going to crack it, but someday someone is going to crack it.
But it's just like, instead of injecting wonder, like I think the Sun Eaters do, it's just injecting more violence against women.
Right.
Which, I don't want to go back there. I don't want to reference Lady Six later. That's just violence against women. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Gita, here's what I want to put on the blackboard.
Okay.
I hear this thrown around a lot, and as our resident expert, I want to ask you, what actually are the top 10 anime betrayals?
I gave this some thought, and I think the problem is, for me, I don't watch the major shonen stuff, so I can't point to that shit at all. But I will say the number one anime betrayal in my mind is what Makima does to Denji. That was a brutal course of events that I will not spoil for anyone who has not yet read part 1 of Chainsaw Man. But that was like, I had to sit down in the dark for a little while.
I think there's a really big one in Bleach, in the one really, really good arc of Bleach. After that, it's not worth watching, but those first 50 or 60 something
that's exactly
episodes.
What I heard about Bleach, right? Is like, it comes a point where you can tell the guy has no more ideas, but up until that point, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
There's some good ones in shoujo also. Let's see. I'm trying to think. The ones that happen in Sailor Moon are more like people just really manipulating her. So I don't know if that's like they're in the top 10 betrayals.
Yeah, that's more like a Gendo situation.
Yeah, I do think Gendo's behavior towards the clone of his ex-wife does constitute as one of the top 10 anime betrayals. Yeah, he just tortures that lady. Like, come on. My thing about this question and why I have a hard time answering it is because what a lot of anime fans think is like good writing is actually hype moments and aura. Hype moments and aura is not the same as good writing. And we're going to get emails, and don't fucking argue with me about this, email writer. But I think stuff like Death Note is more hype moments and aura than it is like good storytelling. And that's why I've never really been able to get into it. I'm sure if you were reading Death Note as it came out week to week, like Lost, it was probably really fun to keep up with because you don't know what's going to happen next. But the character writing in Death Note is like, the characters are both so smart that it just feels like they read next week's script. Yeah. And that's how they keep outsmarting each other. But what I really, really enjoy from anime are not necessarily betrayal moments, but moments when villainous characters unexpectedly do something wholesome or good. And that's like what I always latch on to when I'm thinking about what makes a good dramatic moment in an anime. So I push the Sobek moments out of my mind unless they are as vicious as what Makima does to Denji.
Man, I have one related question that I'm a little embarrassed to ask, but I know this is a safe space where nobody's listening to us. So, Gita, I have to ask you, what's aura? What is that?
As far as I can tell, it's just when you look at something and you say, hell yeah, Like, you look at an image and you're like, hell yeah. People confuse that for storytelling. It's like a really good, like, using this comic as an example, the cover has aura.
Yeah.
Like, it makes Buddy Baker look really, really fucking cool.
It goes hard.
It goes hard, right? That's what people say when they say something has aura. That doesn't necessarily mean, though, that it's good or it's has anything, like, narrative-wise to chew on, has any text or subtext. It's just really fucking cool.
Well, I suspected that. I thought maybe there was more to it than that, but I guess there's not.
No, they just like younger people, and I'm sure no people younger than us are listening to this either.
No,
younger people
why would
just
they?
reinvent words that there are already words for. Like Riz is charisma, and when I
Right.
learned that, I was just like, you can't just say charisma. Interesting.
Right. We got to save time. You want to go to the mailbag?
Let's do it. I love mail.
All right. Here's a question from James. If you'd like to send us a mail, you can do that by writing an email to 52mailbag@gmail.com. James says, I recently got into comics and discovered your podcast about 5 months ago, thanks to being an insert credit fan for years. Thanks, James. And decided to treat myself to a physical copy of 52 to read along. Got him. This last episode was the episode where I finally caught up to the podcast, so I figured I'd write in. First off, I'm loving 52, and it's something I never would have read if not for this podcast, so thank you. You all do a great job of providing the context that makes the series make sense to a comics neophyte like me. I was disappointed that my physical 2-part 52 I splurged on doesn't have the backups at the end of the issue, but I am excited for whatever this podcast chooses to do next so I can splurge on a nice physical copy again. Now my question. Years ago, I got into Alan Moore and read Watchmen and V for Vendetta and Batman the Killing Joke, but I also picked up Superman Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. I only read it once, 15 years ago, but I remember it not making a lick of sense to me, and therefore it had no impact on me. Now, 15 years later, I'm really into comics, and particularly I found I really like Superman. I'm reading the current Action Comics and Superman runs, and have now read a couple of classics, like Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman. I'd really like to go back and treat myself to Moore's Tomorrow book again, but I was wondering if you could recommend any more reading I could do first to really make it land for me this time. Any comics you think you would make it land better or hit harder for me? Thanks so much for what you do, James. Gita, what's your relationship to Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, the Alan Moore swan song?
You know, I
Silver
did
Age Superman.
read that at around the same time, and I just didn't have the context to make head or tails of it because it is a swan song. It is not like trying to be an overarching definitive take on the character itself. It is a swan song to a really specific moment in time for Superman specifically that coincides at the end of the Crisis on Infinite Earths, changing the way that the multiverse works, and retroactively changing the continuity for Superman itself. So I had a similar reaction, which is, I don't have a relationship to this. I don't really understand it. It doesn't hit as hard because it is about like a man's personal nostalgia for a period of time, more so than it is about universal themes. So I look at this and I think you should read Crisis, and you should also read about the history that led to Crisis occurring.
Yes.
Because that's the only way you can understand, like, Superman, there's a before and after point for what this character was like and how kind of goofy, silly, and weird he was for a really long time. And I think also you should check out, I mean, he sucks, but check out John Byrne's new origin for Superman post-Crisis, because that gives you a frame of reference for what Alan Moore knows that they're saying goodbye to.
Gita is absolutely right. I would not recommend going back and reading those old comics from the 50s and 60s. That will not increase your appreciation for this story. Gita is absolutely right that the right thing to do is to go into this with the context that this is an ending, and specifically an ending for a character that people like Alan Moore and people who were reading Superman at the time were growing up with. They were saying goodbye to a friend until so they could clear the deck for the next generation. I can say from my perspective, I first discovered Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow just rifling through a neighbor's long box, just reading their old comics at random, and just finding in the middle of them this last Superman story that I had no idea existed, and just even lacking the context for it at the time, it completely blowing my mind. So I kind of have a hard time relating to this problem because I had no context when I encountered Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, and it's kind of the comic that made me obsessed with Superman.
I can see that. I've read so many different Superman origin stories because because he's like DC's flagship character and one of the most famous characters to ever exist across the world. I've read Byrne's Man of Steel, as well as the Superman Birthright. And I have not read the most recent Jeff Johns one, but I've always been interested in the ways in which people reinterpret that origin story. I am particularly partial, of course, to like Grant Morrison's 3-panel version, which is just dilutes it to Last Son, Dying Planet, Last Son, Kindly Parents. And I've always found that charming. Thinking about the ending then felt less interesting to me when I finally read Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, because I was looking at Superman from the perspective of he's constantly being reinvented. He's constantly becoming new again. So thinking about signing off to that old character did not ignite my interest in that particular way.
Grant Morrison, there was a recent article. They spoke to a bunch of different famous Superman writers in light of this new movie coming out to talk about their favorite Superman comics. And they spoke to Grant Morrison. And Grant Morrison said, for all everyone talks about All-Star Superman, my favorite Superman comic I've written was Superman Beyond, the little 2-issue event in the middle of Final Crisis. And I think they're 100% right. If I'm going to stand up to bat for any Morrison comic, it's going to be Superman Beyond, which is all about how you cannot kill Superman and he keeps reinventing himself and there is no end to this story.
Yeah, a lot of the side the side issue tie-in stuff that Morrison did for Final Crisis ended up being stronger than Final Crisis itself.
Yes.
And it's frustrating because you can tell he's when they stopped being interested in making Final Crisis make sense at all. But they you can see how they spun off from those tie-ins, especially Superman Beyond, into stuff that becomes more interesting, like the multiversity. And that is always this thing that is really annoying, about Final Crisis. Final Crisis is the definition of hype moments and aura when you think about it, in retrospect. But then the actual meat to chew on happens in these other little side stories where Morrison is ideas do live forever. Ideas literally are bulletproof, in the words of Alan Moore.
Well, Gita, I guess if anything, I would say that, in our dynamic in developing this show, I suppose I would be the hype moments and you would be the aura. In that I have my moments, but you're just laying it down constantly.
No, I try to make myself look cool and hopefully also make you look cool.
It comes through. I think it comes through.
I'm glad.
And because of that, it's because you do that for me. I don't think there's ever a moment when we're doing this crazy show that addresses every possible aspect of not just DC, but comics and art as a whole that I do not feel ready. So with that in mind, do you have any questions for me?
Okay, so just taking all of that into consideration and really digesting all of that, really trying to find the core of it and process it and synthesize it into something new. My question for you at this specific moment is, Alex Jaffe, is it short for Alexander? That wasn't my question.
It is.
Okay. Alexander Jaffe.
No middle name.
Do you have a middle name? That wasn't my question either. No middle name? Just raw.
I was born without a middle name. It's something I've had to live with, but it presents some unique challenges, but there are hundreds of us out there.
Hundreds, dozens even. Dozens is less, but don't worry about that. We're not math people here. We're talking about comic books, okay?
I previously said, there are no situations for which I am not ready on this show. Now, what was your question?
Taking that into consideration, knowing that the previous two questions I asked were not actually my question.
Okay.
And that I have a question and it's coming up
I got
very
high hopes
soon.
for this next one.
Okay. Alexander Jaffe, which is your full name. Legally, I wanted to ask you specifically, are you ready?
Gita, what did I just say?
"52 Pickup" is an Aftermath production created by Gita Jackson and Alex Jaffe and edited by Esper Quim with original music by John Aron. Hosting for 52 Pickup is provided by Insert Credit. The views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the show's personalities and do not reflect those of DC Entertainment or Warner Brothers. Please rate and review our show wherever you can and send your questions and comments to 52mailbag@gmail.com. Never stop reading comics.